Take the pretty one, her father begged the Mafia boss. But Leon Matthews looked past the golden sister and saw the girl they'd hidden in the shadows. The Mafia boss was supposed to choose Nancy. Instead, his cold eyes found Anna, the rejected one scrubbing floors in the kitchen. What did he see in the invisible daughter that everyone else had erased? Hello, lovely. If you're drawn to dark romance tales of power, survival, and the dangerous kind of love that changes everything, I'd be so grateful for a like or subscribe. It helps me bring you more stories of shadows, strength, and the hidden truths behind gilded doors. And if you're willing, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I read every note, and it always brings a smile to my face. The kitchen floor was still wet from Anna's scrubbing when Nancy's heel caught the edge, sending her stumbling into the doorframe. The crack of her sister's palm against Anna's cheek came so fast there was no time to flinch. You stupid girl. You could have broken my ankle. Nancy's face was flushed, beautiful even in rage. What if I'd fallen? What if I'd ruined my face before he arrives? Anna pressed her hand to her stinging cheek, tasting blood where her teeth had cut the inside of her mouth. I'm sorry. I was just. Get out of my sight. Nancy smoothed her dress, her breathing returning to normal as quickly as her temper had flared. She examined her reflection in the hallway mirror, checking for damage, before disappearing toward the morning room where breakfast waited. Anna remained on her knees, watching pink-tinged water seep back across the tiles she'd just cleaned. The familiar ache of invisibility settled in her chest, that particular pain of being both constantly present and perpetually unseen. She was visible enough to be blamed, to be hit, to be useful. But never visible enough to matter. It hadn't always been this way. Anna remembered fragments of a different life, before her mother died, before the money disappeared, before she became the family's silent servant. She remembered being 6 years old, reading in her mother's lap while her father laughed at something across the room. She remembered Nancy braiding her hair, back when they were sisters instead of stranger and shadow. Her mother's death had changed everything. Complications from childbirth, the doctors said, though Anna had spent years wondering if it was something she'd done simply by being born. Howard Kirkwood certainly seemed to think so. After the funeral, he'd looked at Anna with something close to hatred, and that look had never really faded. She died giving you life, he'd said when Anna was 8, finding her crying in the library. The least you can do is not be a burden. So Anna had learned to be small. To serve. To disappear into corners and corridors, to become part of the furniture. Nancy had learned different lessons, that beauty was currency, that attention was oxygen, that being noticed meant being valued. The sound of her father's voice pulled Anna from her memories. She rose quietly, bucket in hand, and moved toward the servants' corridor. But Howard's words carried from his study, sharp with desperation. I understand, Mr. Matthews. Yes. 1 week. I'll have everything ready. Anna froze, hidden in the shadows near the doorway. My daughter, the beautiful one, you won't be disappointed. She's exquisite. Cultured. Exactly the kind of wife a man of your position deserves. A pause. Anna could hear her father's labored breathing. 2 million. Yes, I remember the amount. His voice cracked slightly. But surely we can arrange. Nancy is worth far more than money. She could be an asset to you. A partner. Another pause, longer this time. Of course. I understand. 1 week. I won't disappoint you. The phone clicked. Anna heard her father's chair scrape back, heard him pour something, whiskey, probably, though it was barely 10 in the morning. She pressed herself flatter against the wall as he began pacing, muttering to himself. Leon Matthews. Christ. The Russian. 1 week to make this work or we're all dead. Nancy has to be perfect. Has to be irresistible. Anna's hands trembled on the bucket handle. She knew the name Leon Matthews, everyone in the city did. The mafia boss who controlled everything from legitimate businesses to the darkest corners of the underground. The man you didn't cross, didn't cheat, didn't fail to pay. Her father owed $2 million to a monster. And Nancy was the payment he intended to offer. Anna crept away before Howard noticed her presence, her heart hammering against her ribs. 1 week. 7 days until everything changed. 7 days until her sister faced a fate worse than any of them could imagine. 7 days until Anna would be expected to stay invisible while her family gambled with lives they didn't value and beauty they'd weaponized. She climbed to her third-floor closet and locked the door, pressing her back against it as her hands finally stopped shaking. Outside her tiny window, the city sprawled beneath gray skies, and somewhere out there, Leon Matthews was counting down the days until he came to collect what he was owed. The house erupted with commotion 3 days after Anna overheard her father's phone call. Car doors slammed, voices rose in excited greeting, and the familiar click of expensive heels echoed through the marble entrance hall. Nancy had returned from her spa weekend in the city. Anna watched from the top of the servants' staircase as her sister swept through the door in a cloud of designer perfume and self-satisfaction. Nancy wore head-to-toe labels, Chanel sunglasses, Hermes bag, shoes that probably cost more than Anna had seen in cash in her entire life. Her skin glowed with whatever treatments money could buy, her hair fell in perfect golden waves, and she moved like someone who'd never doubted her own magnificence. Father. Nancy's voice carried that particular musical quality she used when she wanted something. Wait until you see what Davide did with my hair. And the facial, my God, my pores have never been smaller. Howard emerged from his study, and Anna saw him assess his daughter with the calculating eye of a man examining merchandise. You look perfect, darling. Absolutely perfect. Come, we need to talk. They disappeared into the study together. Anna descended the stairs silently, her cleaning supplies clutched against her chest, and positioned herself in the hallway where she could hear through the partially open door. I have wonderful news about your future, Howard began, using that false enthusiasm that made Anna's skin crawl. Another introduction to some boring businessman? Nancy sounded bored. Father, I've told you. This is different. Leon Matthews has expressed interest in meeting you. Silence. Then Nancy's voice, sharp with sudden attention, the Leon Matthews? He's looking for a wife. Someone with breeding and beauty. Someone who can help him move in more, legitimate circles. Howard's chair creaked. And I've arranged for him to visit. 1 week from today. You're offering me to a mafia boss. Nancy's voice was flat, emotionless. I'm offering you an opportunity. As his wife, you'd have everything, wealth, power, influence beyond anything this family could provide on our own. How much do you owe him? The question hung in the air like a blade. Anna held her breath. $2 million. Nancy laughed, a brittle, sharp sound. So I'm not an opportunity. I'm a payment. You're a solution, Howard snapped. Do you think I enjoy this? Do you think I want to? He stopped, regained control. Nancy, listen to me. Leon Matthews is one of the most powerful men in the city. Yes, he's dangerous. Yes, his world is violent. But he's also brilliant, wealthy, and he wants respectability. You could give him that. And what happens if he doesn't want me? He will. Howard's voice was firm with desperate conviction. You're stunning. You're perfect. What man wouldn't want you? Anna heard movement, Nancy pacing, probably, processing this information with that calculating mind hidden beneath the beauty. Fine, Nancy said finally. I'll do it. But I'm going to need things. A new wardrobe. Professional styling. Everything has to be perfect. Whatever you need. And Anna. Nancy's voice turned cold. Keep her locked away. I don't want her anywhere near Mr. Matthews when he visits. She's distracting in all the wrong ways. Anna's throat tightened. Even now, even in this, she was the problem to be hidden. Already arranged, Howard assured her. She'll stay in the East Wing. Out of sight. Good. Because I'm going to make Leon Matthews want me more than he's ever wanted anything. Nancy's confidence had returned, sharper than before. If I'm going to be a mafia queen, I'm going to be the most beautiful one this city has ever seen. The study door opened fully, and Nancy emerged, nearly colliding with Anna in the hallway. For a moment, their eyes met. Nancy's gaze traveled over Anna's worn dress, her cleaning supplies, the permanent stoop in her shoulders from years of making herself small. Still playing Cinderella? Nancy's smile was cruel. Don't worry, little sister. When I'm Mrs. Matthews, maybe I'll hire you as my maid. At least then you'd be useful. She swept past, already on her phone, already arranging appointments with stylists and personal shoppers, already transforming herself into the weapon their father needed. Anna remained frozen in the hallway, her cheeks still tender from Nancy's slap 3 days ago, her hands still raw from endless scrubbing. Nancy was going to marry a monster to save their father. And Anna was going to be locked away so her existence didn't interfere with the performance. She returned to her work, scrubbing floors that would only get dirty again, invisible as always, while above her head Nancy planned her future as a queen of shadows, never once considering that some futures couldn't be bought with beauty alone. The black Mercedes appeared at noon exactly, rolling up the gravel drive with the inevitability of a death sentence. Anna watched from her third-floor window, standing on her bed to see through the narrow glass, her heart hammering against her ribs. Behind the Mercedes came an SUV with windows so dark they looked like they'd been cut from night itself. The vehicles moved slowly, deliberately, and Anna thought of sharks circling prey, unhurried because escape was impossible. The Mercedes stopped at the manor's entrance. The engine idled. Nothing moved. The silence stretched until Anna's nerves screamed, until she wanted to bang on the window just to break the terrible tension. Then the driver's door opened, and Leon Matthews stepped out. Even from 3 floors up, Anna could feel the shift in atmosphere, the way the air itself seemed to compress around him, the way shadows deepened in his presence. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a suit so perfectly tailored it looked like a second skin. Dark hair swept back from a face carved from hard angles and controlled violence. A scar ran along his jawline, pale against tanned skin, and Anna wondered what kind of blade had left that mark and whether the person who'd wielded it was still alive. He paused before the entrance, perfectly still, and Anna realized he was cataloging everything, counting windows, noting exits, mapping the estate with the precision of a predator learning new territory. His eyes were cold, assessing, the eyes of a man who saw weakness the way other people saw color. 2 men emerged from the SUV. They wore expensive suits that couldn't quite hide the bulk of weapons beneath, and they moved with the economy of professional violence. They didn't speak, didn't need to. They flanked Leon at a precise distance, close enough to respond, far enough not to crowd. Leon's head tilted slightly, and his gaze swept upward across the manor's facade. 2nd floor. 3rd floor. His eyes moved across windows systematically, and Anna knew she should step back, should hide, should disappear the way she'd been trained to disappear. But she couldn't move. His eyes found her window. Found her face pressed against the glass. For one suspended heartbeat, Leon Matthews looked directly at Anna Kirkwood, and she felt the weight of that attention like a physical force, intelligent, calculating, missing nothing. Then he looked away, turned toward the entrance, and the moment shattered. Anna stumbled back from the window, her legs trembling, her pulse racing in her throat. He'd seen her. She was certain of it. For just that instant, she hadn't been invisible. Below, she heard the front door open. Her father's voice floated up, too loud, too jovial, desperation bleeding through every syllable. Mr. Matthews. Welcome, welcome to our humble home. What an honor to have you here. Please, come in, come in. Anna pressed her ear to her door, straining to hear. Heavy footsteps on marble, Leon's, measured and deliberate. Her father's nervous patter continued, each word digging their grave deeper. My daughter Nancy is waiting in the parlor. She's so eager to meet you. Such a beauty, Mr. Matthews. You won't be disappointed. This way, please. More footsteps. Then Mrs. Chen's voice, offering refreshments. Leon's response came, a single word, low and accented, the Russian edges still sharp despite years in America, water. Not a request. A statement. A man used to the world rearranging itself around his needs. Anna crept to her tiny window again, angling to see the entrance below. Leon's guards remained outside, flanking the door like statues. One of them was speaking into a radio, low and efficient. The other scanned the grounds continuously, his hand resting casually near his jacket, near the weapon Anna knew was there. These weren't men playing at danger. These were professionals who lived in violence the way other people lived in offices. Inside the house, she could hear movement toward the parlor. Her father's voice continued its desperate monologue. Nancy has been so looking forward to this meeting. She's accomplished, you know. Cultured. She studied in Paris for a summer. Speaks French fluently. And as you'll see, she's quite stunning. Mr. Kirkwood. Leon's voice cut through Howard's babbling like a knife through silk. I did not come here for a sales pitch. Silence. Anna imagined her father's face, the fear crawling across it. Of course not. Of course. I just meant. Show me to your daughter. The words weren't loud, but they carried absolute authority. Anna heard doors opening, the parlor doors, she guessed. Heard her father's intake of breath, preparing to introduce Nancy like a prize at auction. And then silence again. Whatever was happening in that parlor, Anna couldn't hear it from 3 floors away, locked in her closet, erased from the day's events as thoroughly as if she'd never existed. But she couldn't stop thinking about that moment when Leon's eyes had found hers. Couldn't stop remembering the intelligence in that gaze, the way he'd looked at her, not through her, the way everyone else did, but at her, as if she were something worth noting. Anna wrapped her arms around herself and waited, invisible and terrified, while below her the wolf walked through rooms he already owned, examining the beautiful bait her father had set, deciding whether it was worth the $2 million of debt he'd come to collect. The parlor had been staged like a theater set. Fresh flowers in crystal vases. The good furniture brought out from storage and polished until it gleamed. Candles lit despite the afternoon sun, casting everything in a warm, flattering glow. Nancy positioned on the velvet settee like a masterpiece in a gallery, the emerald dress catching light with every calculated breath. Leon Matthews entered the room, and Howard felt his throat close with fear and desperate hope. Mr. Matthews, may I present my daughter, Nancy Kirkwood? Howard's voice cracked slightly on her name. Nancy rose with practiced grace, extending one perfectly manicured hand. Mr. Matthews. What a pleasure. Her smile was dazzling. Her posture perfect. Everything about her radiated confidence and beauty, the golden hair, the flawless skin, the curves emphasized by designer silk. She was a vision, a fantasy made flesh, exactly what any man should want. Leon took her hand briefly, his expression unreadable. Miss Kirkwood. His voice was low, accented, giving away nothing. He released her hand and moved to the window, looking out at the grounds with his back to them. The scar along his jaw caught the light. Nancy's smile flickered for just a moment before she recovered. She settled back onto the settee, adjusting her dress to show her legs to advantage. Father tells me you're interested in expanding your business interests into more traditional sectors. Does he? Not a question. Leon didn't turn from the window. I think that's wonderful. Respectability is so important, don't you think? And having the right partner, someone who understands both worlds, that could be invaluable. Howard watched Leon's shoulders, trying to read something, anything in that controlled stillness. The man gave away nothing. He stood at the window like a statue, and Howard felt sweat beading on his forehead despite the room's chill. Nancy has studied abroad, Howard interjected, unable to bear the silence. She speaks 3 languages. She's been featured in society pages. She knows everyone worth knowing in this city. Mr. Kirkwood. Leon turned finally, his cold eyes fixing on Howard. Why don't you tell me the real reason I'm here? The room seemed to contract. Howard felt his heart stutter. I thought you expressed interest in meeting. I expressed interest in collecting what you owe me. $2 million. Leon's gaze moved to Nancy, clinical and assessing, like a jeweler examining a stone. And you believe your daughter is worth that amount? Nancy's face flushed, but she held her composure. I believe I could be worth far more than money to the right man. Could you? Leon moved closer, and Howard saw his daughter tense despite her smile. Tell me, Miss Kirkwood, what do you know about my business? I know you're successful. Powerful. That you command respect. I command fear, Leon corrected quietly. I traffic in violence, Miss Kirkwood. I break men who fail to pay their debts. I have killed people who threaten my interests. Do you understand what you would be marrying into? Nancy's smile wavered. I I understand that every powerful man has to make difficult decisions. Leon studied her for a long moment, then turned away, clearly unimpressed. Howard felt panic rising in his chest. This wasn't working. Nancy wasn't working. The plan was failing. Perhaps some refreshments, Howard started desperately. The parlor door opened. Anna entered carrying a tea tray, her head down, her posture apologetic. She'd been in the kitchen when Mrs. Chen had frantically gestured for her to bring tea to the parlor, forgetting, or perhaps not caring, that Anna was supposed to be locked away, invisible, erased from this performance. I'm so sorry, Father, I didn't know. Anna's voice was barely above a whisper. She looked up, and her eyes met Leon's. The world seemed to stop. Leon's entire attention shifted, focused, locked onto Anna with an intensity that made the air between them crackle. His cold eyes traced over her disheveled hair, her worn gray dress, the bruise yellowing on her wrist. He saw the way she hunched her shoulders, making herself small. Saw the raw, reddened hands that gripped the tray. Saw something in her eyes, exhaustion and resilience and survival. Who is this? Leon said softly. Not a question. A demand. No one, Howard said quickly. Just, the help. Anna, get out. Now. But Anna couldn't move. Leon's gaze held her frozen, and she felt something shift in the room's atmosphere, felt Nancy's shock, her father's terror, felt the sudden, terrible understanding that she'd just ruined everything by being seen. Anna, Leon repeated, tasting the name. He moved toward her, and Anna's hands trembled on the tray, tea sloshing in the cups. Anna what? Kirkwood, she whispered, because lying to this man seemed more dangerous than telling the truth. Leon's eyes narrowed. He looked from Anna to Howard to Nancy, and Anna watched him calculate, connect pieces, understand exactly what he was seeing. You have 2 daughters. Anna is, she's not, Howard stumbled over words. Nancy is my daughter. Anna is just. Your daughter, Leon finished, his voice dropping to something dangerous. The one you hid from me. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. Nancy stood, her face flushed with fury and humiliation. She's nothing, Mr. Matthews. A mistake. Father keeps her around out of obligation, but she's not what you came here for. Leon ignored Nancy completely. His attention remained fixed on Anna, who stood trembling with the tea tray, wishing she could disappear, wishing she'd never entered this room, wishing she didn't feel the weight of his gaze like a brand burning through her skin. Put the tray down, Leon said quietly. Anna's hands shook as she set it on the side table. Tea spilled across the polished wood, but no one moved to clean it. Leon stepped closer, close enough that Anna could smell expensive cologne and something underneath it, gunpowder, maybe, or the metallic scent of violence. Look at me. She forced her eyes up to meet his. Up close, his face was even harder, more dangerous, the scar a white slash of survived violence. But his eyes, cold and calculating and impossibly intelligent, held something she couldn't name. Recognition, maybe. Or interest. How long have they kept you like this? He asked, his voice so low only she could hear. Anna's throat closed. She couldn't answer, couldn't speak, couldn't do anything but stand there while the wolf examined her and her family's desperate plan crumbled around them. She's no one, Mr. Matthews. Howard's voice climbed an octave, desperation making him reckless. A servant. Barely part of the family. Please, let's return our attention to Nancy. No. The single word from Leon carried such absolute authority that Howard's mouth snapped shut. Leon's eyes never left Anna's face. I asked you a question, Mr. Kirkwood. How many daughters do you have? Technically 2, but where does she sleep? The question came so suddenly that Howard blinked, confused. I'm sorry? This daughter you hide. Where does she sleep in your house? Leon's accent thickened slightly, a dangerous sign that Nancy recognized even if her father didn't. The East Wing. 3rd floor. Mr. Matthews, I really don't see why. Show me. The parlor fell into shocked silence. Nancy's face drained of color. Howard looked like he might be sick. That's completely unnecessary, Howard stammered. There's nothing to see. Just servant quarters. Leon turned to face him fully, and Anna watched her father physically recoil. Mr. Kirkwood. You owe me $2 million. You brought me here under false pretenses, offering one daughter while hiding another. Now I want to see where you keep the daughter you're so eager to dismiss. His voice dropped to something lethal. Show me. Now. Howard's resistance crumbled. Of course. If you insist. Though I assure you, he caught the look on Leon's face and fell silent. They moved through the manor like a funeral procession. Leon first, his presence filling every corridor they passed through. Howard trailing behind, sweating through his expensive shirt. Nancy following, her perfect facade cracking with fury. And Anna, summoned by a gesture from Leon, walking as if to her own execution. The servants they passed pressed themselves against walls, eyes downcast. Mrs. Chen appeared in a doorway, took one look at Leon's face, and disappeared again without a word. They climbed the servants' staircase, narrow and dim, nothing like the grand staircase Nancy descended every morning. The third floor was cramped, low-ceilinged, the wallpaper peeling in places. This was where the manor's infrastructure lived, where the machinery of comfort existed out of sight of those who enjoyed it. Anna stopped at a door barely distinguishable from the wall. This is my room. Leon's jaw tightened. He pushed the door open. The space was barely large enough for a person to turn around in. A narrow bed, thin blanket folded with military precision. A dresser with 3 drawers, one handle missing. A single high window that required standing on the bed to see through. No decorations. No photographs. Nothing that suggested a human being lived here rather than simply existed. Leon stood in the doorway, too large for the space, his shoulders nearly touching both sides of the frame. He said nothing, but Anna watched something dark and cold settle over his features. He stepped inside, looked up at the window, then down at the bed positioned beneath it. Understanding crossed his face. You stand on the bed to see outside. It wasn't a question, but Anna answered anyway. Yes. He turned slowly, taking in every detail. The crack in the plaster. The damp spot in the corner where rain leaked through. The complete absence of anything personal, anything that suggested the room belonged to a daughter of the house rather than someone being punished. How long? Leon asked quietly. 3 years in this room, Anna whispered. Before that, a bedroom in the east wing. Smaller than Nancy's, but... Before that? Anna's throat tightened. When my mother was alive, I had a room next to Nancy's. Leon's eyes found hers. Your mother died. When I was 6. And your father blamed you. The observation was so accurate, so brutally precise, that Anna couldn't speak. She simply nodded. Leon moved past her, back into the hallway. Where are the family photographs, Mr. Kirkwood? Howard had been standing at the base of the stairs, unwilling to climb to the servants' floor. The what? Family photographs. Portraits. You have them? In the gallery. First floor. But I don't see. Leon was already moving, descending the stairs with Anna following, unable to disobey the unspoken command in his presence. Nancy and Howard scrambled after them. The gallery ran along the west corridor, 3 generations of Kirkwoods captured in silver frames and oil paintings. Leon moved slowly down the line, studying each one. Howard and his late wife on their wedding day. Nancy as a baby, then a toddler, then a teenager in a debutante gown. Family Christmas photos. Summer vacations. Birthday parties. And in every photograph that should have included both daughters, there was only Nancy. Leon stopped at one frame, a family portrait from 6 years ago. Anna remembered it being taken. She'd stood next to Nancy, both of them in matching dresses. But in the frame now, the photograph had been cropped. Howard returned to the gallery 10 minutes later, his shirt soaked through with sweat, a desperate gleam in his eyes. Nancy followed, her perfect composure restored, though her hands trembled slightly at her sides. Leon stood by the window, backlit by afternoon sun, his silhouette dark and predatory. Anna had retreated to the corner, trying to disappear into the wallpaper as she'd learned to do. But she could feel Leon's awareness of her presence like a physical weight. Mr. Matthews. Howard's voice was too loud, too jovial, fear bleeding through every syllable. I think perhaps we got off on the wrong foot. Let me explain. Explain how you abuse your daughter? Leon didn't turn from the window. Anna it's complicated. Her mother's death affected us all deeply. But Nancy, Howard gestured toward his golden daughter like a desperate salesman. Nancy is what you came here for. She's everything you need. Beautiful, cultured, connected to every important family in this city. Leon remained silent, his back to them. Howard pressed forward, emboldened by the lack of immediate rejection. And I'm prepared to be generous, Mr. Matthews. Not just Nancy's hand in marriage, but additional assets. The summer house in the Hamptons, it's worth at least $300,000. And my collection of vintage wines, easily another $100,000. Plus my connections, I know judges, politicians, businessmen who could be valuable to your expansion plans. You're trying to sell me your daughter. Leon's voice was flat, emotionless. I'm offering you a partnership. Nancy would be the perfect wife for a man of your position. She knows how to navigate society, how to present the right image. Father's right, Nancy interjected, stepping forward with her practiced smile restored. I can give you respectability, Mr. Matthews. Access to circles that don't usually open to men in your line of work. I can be an asset. Leon turned finally, his cold eyes moving from Nancy to Howard. And what about Anna? The question hung in the air like a blade. Howard's expression soured immediately. Anna? Mr. Matthews, surely you're not seriously considering, she's not appropriate for someone of your stature. She's damaged. Difficult. She has no social graces, no connections, no value in the circles that matter. No value, Leon repeated softly. None whatsoever. Howard was gathering momentum now, his desperation making him reckless. Anna is a burden we've carried out of obligation. She's worthless as a social asset. Look at her, he gestured toward Anna with contempt. Plain, awkward, barely educated beyond basic literacy. She has nothing to offer a man like you. Anna felt each word like a physical blow, but she kept her eyes down, her shoulders hunched, making herself small. This was familiar territory, her father's cruelty was something she'd learned to survive. Nancy laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. Honestly, Mr. Matthews, I'm not sure why we're even discussing her. Anna can barely hold a conversation. She spends all her time scrubbing floors and hiding in corners. She's not wife material, she's barely human material. Nancy, Howard chided gently, though his eyes gleamed with approval. That's harsh. But true. Nancy moved closer to Leon, her body language shifting to something more seductive. You need someone who can stand beside you in public, Mr. Matthews. Someone who won't embarrass you. Anna would be a liability. She doesn't know how to dress, how to act, how to be anything other than what she is, a sad little shadow who should have been sent away years ago. Where would you have sent her? Leon asked quietly. Nancy shrugged. An institution, maybe. Or married off to some farmer who wouldn't care that she's defective. Anywhere but here, cluttering up the house. Defective, Leon said, tasting the word. Damaged, Howard corrected. Her mother's death broke something in her. She never recovered. She's been this way since childhood, withdrawn, difficult, unable to function in normal society. Taking Anna as a wife would be like adopting a stray dog, Mr. Matthews. A charity case. And you don't strike me as a charitable man. Leon's silence stretched. Anna could hear her own heartbeat, could feel the weight of her father's words crushing down on her. Worthless. Damaged. Defective. These were not new accusations, she'd heard variations of them her entire life. But hearing them laid out so clinically before this dangerous stranger made them somehow more real, more permanent. Whereas Nancy, Howard continued, sensing an opening, Nancy is an asset. She's been groomed for exactly this kind of match. She knows wines, art, music. She can host dinners for 50 people without breaking a sweat. She can charm senators and intimidate rivals' wives. She's worth the investment. Nancy smiled, confident again. I can make you look legitimate, Mr. Matthews. I can be the face of your empire that people see at charity galas and society functions. The beautiful wife who makes everyone forget what you really do. She glanced at Anna with undisguised contempt. What could Anna possibly offer you? The ability to scrub your floors more efficiently? Leon's gaze moved to Anna, and she forced herself to meet his eyes despite the shame burning through her. She saw him take in her hunched posture, her worn dress, the bruise on her wrist. Saw him catalog every piece of evidence that proved her father and sister right, that she was worthless, damaged, a burden no one would choose willingly. Mr. Matthews, Howard said, his voice thick with desperation, I'm begging you. Take Nancy. Take the additional assets. I'll throw in the yacht, it needs some work, but it's worth $500,000 easily. Just, please. Nancy is what you need. Nancy is what any man would want. Any man, Leon repeated. Yes. Howard's face lit with desperate hope. Any man in his right mind would choose Nancy. She's perfect. Anna is nothing. Less than nothing. She's not even worth discussing. Leon looked at Anna for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Anna felt something inside her crystallize, the final, undeniable proof that she was exactly what they'd always said she was. Even a monster like Leon Matthews, when given the choice between beauty and worthlessness, would choose beauty. Everyone did. She waited for him to turn back to Nancy, to accept the deal, to choose the golden daughter and leave the shadow to fade back into invisibility. Instead, Leon smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. It was the smile of a predator who just spotted weakness and knew exactly how to exploit it. Mr. Kirkwood, Leon said softly, his voice carrying deadly certainty, I've made my decision. Howard's face flooded with relief. Excellent. Nancy will make you very happy, I'm certain. I want Anna. The words dropped into the gallery like stones into still water, ripples of shock spreading outward. Nancy's mouth fell open. Howard's face drained of all color. I'm sorry. Howard's voice was barely a whisper. Your debt is $2 million, Leon continued, his eyes never leaving Anna's face. I'll forgive the entire amount. But the price is Anna. Not Nancy. Not your summer house or your yacht or your connections. Anna. That's my offer. You can't be serious, Nancy breathed, her voice shaking with fury and disbelief. Leon turned to her, and the contempt in his eyes was withering. Your father is right about one thing, Miss Kirkwood. I need someone who can survive in my world. Someone who's already lived through hell and come out breathing. His gaze returned to Anna. Your sister performs strength. Anna has lived it. There's no comparison. Howard's face twisted with desperation and confusion. But she's worthless. You said so yourself, she has nothing to offer. I said no such thing, Leon corrected coldly. You did. Repeatedly. And that's how I know you're a fool, Mr. Kirkwood. You had 2 daughters. One you polished like a weapon. The other you tried to break. His smile was razor sharp. And somehow, you never realized which one was truly dangerous. The gallery exploded into chaos. Absolutely not. Howard's voice cracked, rising to a shout. I won't allow it. This is insane, Anna isn't suitable, she can't possibly. You don't have a choice, Mr. Kirkwood. Leon's voice cut through the hysteria like a blade through silk. You owe me $2 million. I'm offering to forgive that debt in exchange for Anna's hand in marriage. Accept, or I collect what you owe me by other means. The threat hung in the air, unmistakable. Howard's face went from red to white in seconds. Nancy let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a scream. This is ridiculous. You're choosing her over me? Her voice climbed to something shrill, her perfect composure shattering completely. Look at her. She's nothing. I'm the one who's beautiful, who's been trained for this, who actually has value. You're the one who's cruel, Leon interrupted, his voice dropping to something lethal. Who beats her sister and calls it discipline. Who erases her from photographs and pretends it's justified. He turned his full attention to Nancy, and Anna watched her sister physically recoil. You want to know what I see when I look at you, Miss Kirkwood? I see weakness wearing a beautiful mask. I see someone who's never survived anything real, never earned anything beyond genetic fortune. You're an ornament. Pretty. Useless. Easily broken. Nancy's face contorted with rage and humiliation. How dare you? I dare because I own your father's debt and therefore his fate. Leon's smile was cold. And I'm choosing Anna. She'll embarrass you. Nancy shrieked. She'll humiliate you in front of everyone who matters. She doesn't know how to act, how to dress, how to be anything other than a servant. Then I'll teach her. Leon's voice carried absolute certainty. Unlike you, Miss Kirkwood, Anna knows how to learn. How to adapt. How to survive. His eyes found Anna's across the gallery. Those are the qualities I need in a wife. Howard stepped forward, his hands raised in pleading. Mr. Matthews, please, be reasonable. Nancy is offering you everything, connections, beauty, social standing. What can Anna possibly give you that Nancy can't? Honesty, Leon said simply. Your golden daughter has performed for me since I arrived. Everything calculated, everything fake. But Anna, he gestured toward where Anna stood frozen in the corner. She hasn't lied to me once. Hasn't tried to manipulate me. Hasn't pretended to be anything other than what she is. In my world, Mr. Kirkwood, that's worth more than beauty. This is insanity. Howard's voice broke. I won't allow you to take her. You have no choice. Leon's voice hardened. Accept my offer, or I'll take everything you have. The house, the land, every asset you've mortgaged and borrowed against. And then I'll collect the remainder from your flesh. The promise of violence was unmistakable. Anna watched her father's resistance crumble, watched him realize he'd lost, that the plan he'd built around Nancy's beauty had backfired spectacularly. The sound of footsteps made them all turn. Leon's guards had entered the gallery, drawn by the raised voices. They stood in the doorway, hands near their weapons, waiting for orders. Leon spoke to them in Russian, quick, efficient commands Anna couldn't understand. One guard nodded and pulled out a phone. The other remained at attention, his cold eyes sweeping the room, cataloging threats. What are you doing? Howard asked, fear making his voice thin. Calling my lawyer, Leon replied. We'll need a prenuptial agreement drafted. And the marriage license expedited. He checked his watch. We can be married within 3 days if we move quickly. 3 days? Anna's voice came out as barely a whisper. She'd been silent through the entire confrontation, too shocked to process what was happening. You want to marry me in 3 days? Leon crossed the gallery to stand before her. Up close, he was overwhelming, tall, dangerous, his presence filling her entire field of vision. But when he spoke, his voice gentled slightly, losing some of its lethal edge. I want to marry you, Anna Kirkwood. I'm offering you a choice your father never gave you. His eyes held hers, intelligent and unblinking. You can stay here, in this house where they've erased you. Where they beat you and call you worthless and lock you in storage closets. Or you can leave with me. To what? Anna's hands were shaking. To a world of violence and crime? To being the wife of she couldn't finish the sentence. A monster? Leon supplied, something almost like amusement in his eyes. Yes. That's what I am. I won't lie to you, Anna. My world is dangerous. Violent. Nothing like the fairy tales they tell little girls. He paused, studying her face. But in my world, you would be valued. Protected. Seen. The last word hit Anna like a physical blow. Seen. Not invisible. Not erased. Not nothing. You survived them, Leon continued, gesturing toward Howard and Nancy. You survived years of abuse, of erasure, of being treated like you don't exist. That takes strength most people never develop. That makes you dangerous in ways your sister will never understand. His voice dropped lower. Now let me show you what it means to thrive. She can't possibly want this, Nancy interjected, her voice ragged with fury. Anna, tell him. Tell him you don't want to marry a criminal, to live in constant danger. Anna looked at her sister, golden, beautiful Nancy, who'd hit her and mocked her and watched her be erased without protest. Then at her father, who'd spent 17 years making Anna pay for her mother's death, who'd cropped her from photographs and locked her away and called her worthless. Then back at Leon Matthews, dangerous, cold, a killer and a criminal. But the first person in years who'd looked at her and seen someone worth choosing. What happens if I say no? Anna asked quietly. Leon's expression didn't change. I collect the debt by other means. Your father loses everything. You remain here, invisible and erased. He tilted his head slightly. And I leave, having seen exactly who you are but unable to do anything about it. And if I say yes? You become my wife. My partner. You step into a world that will be terrifying and dangerous and nothing like what you've known. His eyes held hers. But you will never be invisible again. You will never be worthless. And anyone who tries to hurt you will answer to me. The promise in those words was absolute. Anna could see it in his eyes, the controlled violence, the certainty, the complete willingness to destroy anyone who threatened what was his. She should say no. Should run from this dangerous man and his dangerous world. Should choose the familiar hell over the unknown one. But Anna was so tired. Tired of scrubbing floors until her hands bled. Tired of eating alone in the kitchen while her family dined above. Tired of being cropped from photographs and locked in closets and told she was nothing, worthless, damaged beyond repair. And for the first time in her life, someone was offering her a choice. Not telling her what she would be, but asking what she wanted to become. Anna looked at Leon Matthews, the wolf who'd come to collect a debt and chosen the invisible daughter instead of the golden one, and made her decision. Yes, she whispered. Then, stronger, yes. I'll marry you. Nancy's shriek of rage echoed through the gallery. Howard's protests rose in a desperate crescendo. But Anna heard none of it. She only saw Leon's small, satisfied smile, saw him extend his hand to her like a lifeline in dark water. She took it. His grip was warm, strong, absolutely certain. He pulled her gently toward him, away from the corner where she'd been trying to disappear, into the center of the gallery where everyone could see her. 3 days, Leon said to Howard, his voice carrying absolute authority. Have her belongings packed. Have the necessary documents ready. And pray I don't change my mind about forgiving your debt. He turned to leave, Anna's hand still in his, and the household parted before them like a curtain. The guards fell into formation around them. Mrs. Chen watched from a doorway, her weathered face showing something that might have been relief or might have been fear. As they reached the front entrance, Leon paused, looked down at Anna with those cold, intelligent eyes. Are you afraid? He asked quietly. Anna considered lying, then remembered his words about honesty. Terrified. Leon nodded, as if this was the right answer. Good. Fear keeps you alert. Keeps you alive. He squeezed her hand once, firmly. But you won't face it alone anymore. Then he guided her out of Kirkwood Manor, away from the family who'd tried to erase her, toward a black Mercedes and a future she couldn't imagine but had chosen anyway. Behind them, Nancy's screaming continued, and Howard's protests faded into the distance. Anna didn't look back. Anna sat in Leon's Mercedes, the leather seat cold beneath her thin dress, watching Kirkwood Manor shrink in the side mirror. Her hands trembled in her lap, and she couldn't stop them no matter how hard she tried to steady herself. Leon drove in silence, his guards following in the SUV behind them. The city passed in a blur, streets Anna had never been allowed to walk, shops she'd never been permitted to enter, a world she'd only glimpsed through narrow windows while scrubbing floors. After 20 minutes, Leon pulled into an underground parking garage beneath a building of steel and glass that pierced the sky like a blade. He killed the engine but didn't move to exit. In the sudden silence, Anna could hear her own ragged breathing. Ask me, Leon said quietly. Anna's throat was tight. Ask you what? Whatever question is making you shake like that. She looked down at her hands, at the bruise on her wrist that had started this entire catastrophe. Why me? Nancy was right, I have nothing to offer you. I don't know how to be a wife to someone like you. I'll embarrass you, fail you. Stop. Leon's command was gentle but absolute. He turned in his seat to face her fully. Your father and sister have spent years convincing you that you're worthless. I need you to understand something, Anna. They're wrong. Everyone can't be wrong. They can when they're measuring the wrong things. Leon's eyes held hers, intense and unwavering. Your sister is beautiful. I noticed this the moment I saw her. Perfect features, perfect body, perfect performance. But within 5 minutes, I knew she was useless to me. Anna blinked. Because she's cruel? Because she's weak. Leon's voice was matter-of-fact. Nancy has never survived anything real. She's been pampered, protected, praised for genetics she did nothing to earn. When real danger comes, and in my world, it always comes, she would crumble. Or worse, she would betray me to save herself. He reached out slowly, giving Anna time to pull away, and touched the bruise on her wrist with surprising gentleness. But you, he continued, you've survived 17 years of psychological warfare. You've been beaten, erased, treated like you don't exist, and you're still here. Still functioning. Still capable of kindness. I saw how gently you set down that tea tray even when you were terrified. His thumb traced the edge of the bruise. That's not weakness, Anna. That's survival. And survival is the most valuable skill in my world. I'm not strong, Anna whispered. I just endured. You think those are different things? Leon's smile was slight but genuine. Strength isn't about never feeling pain. It's about continuing to breathe when everything in you wants to stop. You've been doing that your entire life. Anna felt something crack in her chest, a wall she'd built around hope so long ago she'd forgotten it was there. But I don't know how to be what you need. I don't know fashion or social graces or how to navigate your world. Those things can be taught. Leon released her wrist and sat back. What can't be taught is loyalty. Resilience. The ability to see truth even when everyone around you is performing lies. His eyes never left hers. Your sister performs strength. You've lived it. I need someone real, Anna. Not someone beautiful. Real. The words settled between them like a promise. Real. Not invisible. Not erased. Not worthless. What if I fail? Anna's voice was barely audible. What if I can't? Then we fail together. Leon's certainty was absolute. But I don't think you will. I've watched you, Anna. In that house where they tried to break you, you learned to be invisible. But invisibility is a skill. And any skill that can be learned can be unlearned. He reached across and opened her door, the gesture somehow both command and invitation. I'm giving you a choice they never gave you. You can walk away right now. I'll have my driver take you anywhere you want to go. Not back to that house, but anywhere else, a hotel, another city, a fresh start with enough money to begin again. His voice softened. Or you can come upstairs with me and start becoming who you were meant to be before they tried to erase you. Anna looked out at the parking garage, concrete and shadows and the unknown future waiting beyond. Then back at Leon, this dangerous man who'd seen her when no one else had, who'd chosen her when no one else would. She thought of the storage closet bedroom. The cropped photographs. Nancy's cruel laughter and her father's contempt. 17 years of being nothing, of being less than nothing. And she thought of Leon's words, you will never be invisible again. Anna stepped out of the car. Leon smiled, a real smile this time, small but genuine, and came around to stand beside her. He offered his arm, formal despite the parking garage setting. 3 days, he said. I'll have someone teach you what you need to know. Not to perform, like your sister. But to survive. To thrive. Anna took his arm, feeling the solid strength beneath expensive fabric. And after 3 days? After 3 days, you become Anna Matthews. My wife. My partner. His voice dropped lower. And anyone who tries to make you invisible again will learn exactly how dangerous that mistake can be. They walked toward the elevator together, Anna's worn dress and Leon's perfect suit, an odd pairing, but somehow right. Behind them, the guards fell into formation, and Anna realized with a strange, dizzy certainty that these men would kill for her now. Would die for her. Because she was Leon's choice, and in his world, that meant everything. The elevator doors closed, and Anna watched her reflection in the polished steel, still thin, still bruised, still wearing a servant's dress. But standing straighter now. Meeting her own eyes for the first time in years. Not invisible anymore. Never invisible again. The wedding took place at midnight in Leon's penthouse, 70 floors above the city where Anna had spent her life being erased. No white dress, no flowers, no pretense of fairy tale romance. Just Anna in black silk that clung to her newly confident frame, and Leon in a suit darker than shadows, and witnesses who carried guns beneath their jackets. The officiant spoke quickly, efficiently, his hands trembling slightly as he performed a ceremony for a man whose reputation preceded him like smoke before fire. Anna's voice was steady when she spoke her vows. Leon's was absolute. When he slid the ring onto her finger, a band of platinum with a single black diamond, Anna felt the weight of it like a crown, like a weapon, like a promise that could cut both ways. You may kiss your bride. Leon's kiss was possessive, claiming, and something else Anna hadn't expected, gentle. When he pulled back, his eyes held hers with that intense focus she was learning to recognize. Mine now, he said quietly, and Anna understood it wasn't a statement of ownership but of protection. The 3 days between acceptance and wedding had transformed Anna in ways that had nothing to do with the clothes or the hair or the makeup artists who'd worked their magic. Leon's people had taught her to walk differently, not hunched and apologetic, but straight-backed and deliberate. Had taught her to speak, not in whispers, but in clear, commanding tones that made people listen. Had taught her the language of power, which wasn't about volume but about certainty. But the most important lessons came from Leon himself, in quiet conversations over meals in his penthouse, in the hours spent learning the architecture of his empire. My world isn't about brutality, he'd explained the second night, over dinner that Anna was still learning to eat without flinching at the extravagance. It's about strategy. About knowing when to show strength and when to hide it. About loyalty, who to trust, who to eliminate, who to keep close enough to watch. Anna had listened, absorbing every word, and realized with growing certainty that these were things she already understood. She'd spent 17 years reading her father's moods to avoid his wrath, navigating Nancy's cruelty, surviving by understanding the unspoken rules of a hostile environment. She'd learned strategy the hard way, in a house where visibility meant pain and invisibility meant survival. You already know how to be dangerous, Leon had said, watching her process this. You just didn't know it had value. Now, as Leon's wife, as Anna Matthews, she stood beside him at the floor-to-ceiling windows and looked down at the city sprawling below. His guards, her guards now, stood at respectful distances. His associates, men with cold eyes and expensive suits, approached her with deference that still felt surreal. Mrs. Matthews, they called her, and each time, Anna stood a little straighter. The first test came 6 days after the wedding. A business dinner with 3 of Leon's competitors, men testing the new wife, looking for weakness, for leverage, for ways to exploit the choice Leon had made. Anna walked into that room in black Versace, her dark hair swept up to reveal the column of her throat, and she remembered every lesson. Not about which fork to use or how to make small talk, but about power. About reading men who thought they were unreadable. About knowing when to speak and when to let silence do the work. One of them, emboldened by wine, made a comment about Leon choosing poorly. The plain one, he'd said, smirking. When the beautiful one was right there. Anna had smiled, Leon's smile, cold and calculating. Beauty is common in our world, Mr. Volkov. Intelligence is rare. And loyalty? She'd let the pause stretch. That's priceless. My husband chose accordingly. The table had gone silent. Leon's hand had found hers beneath the table, squeezed once. Approval. Pride. Volkov hadn't lasted 2 more months in the business. Not because Leon destroyed him, but because Anna had quietly, efficiently, identified every weakness in his operation and fed that information where it needed to go. She'd learned that power wasn't always loud. Sometimes it was invisible, like she'd been, except now she chose when to be seen and when to disappear. 3 months after the wedding, Anna stood in Leon's office, reviewing acquisition proposals, when the security feed showed a car pulling up to the building's entrance. She recognized it immediately, her father's Mercedes, older now, showing wear. "They're here," she said quietly. Leon looked up from his desk. "Do you want to see them?" Anna considered. Howard and Nancy had tried calling 17 times in the first week. Then the calls stopped. Replaced by letters, desperate, pleading, angry by turns. Anna had read each one, felt nothing, and filed them away as evidence of exactly who they were. Let them wait in the lobby, Anna decided. 30 minutes. Then send them away. Leon's smile was approving. Cruel. Strategic, Anna corrected, using his word. They taught me that waiting in the wrong spaces, being seen but not acknowledged, is its own kind of erasure. She returned to her proposals. Let them feel it. From the security feed, Anna watched her father and Nancy in the marble lobby 70 floors below. Nancy's clothes were less expensive now, her beauty dimmed by stress and financial decline. Howard looked older, smaller, diminished. They sat on cold marble benches, waiting for an audience that would never come, invisible to the guards who stood nearby, erased from the world Anna now inhabited. After 30 minutes exactly, security escorted them out. Anna watched them leave, watched her father's shoulders slump, watched Nancy's fury barely contained. She felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, no revenge. Just the calm certainty that they no longer mattered. "You've changed," Leon observed, watching her face. "No," Anna said, meeting his eyes. "I've just stopped pretending to be what they told me I was." That night, Anna stood again at the windows, the city glittering below like fallen stars. Leon came to stand beside her, his presence solid and certain at her back. "Any regrets?" he asked. Anna thought of the storage closet bedroom. The cropped photographs. The years of being nothing. Then of the woman she'd become, feared by Leon's enemies, respected by his allies, valued by the man himself. She'd escaped the shadows by walking into a darker world, and in that darkness, she'd finally learned to shine. "None," she said, and meant it. Leon's arms came around her, possessive and protective, and Anna leaned back into his strength. Below them, the city sprawled infinite and dangerous and full of possibility. And high above it all, in a tower of steel and glass, the invisible daughter had become a queen. Not by being chosen for her beauty, but by being seen for her strength.